Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue VA, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, the Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from a full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 638 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Karissa Lacy. And if you want to hear what it's like to be in practice for 6 months and understanding that life is movement and movement is life, stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. This is a number 638 of our show. I was just telling Dr. Karissa that we are about to turn 7. The show turns 7 on July 4th. So really cool. We've been producing for that long. But before we get into this episode, I let everybody know our big why. It's fundamental, honestly. Like, I feel like if you don't listen to anything else during your entire day, if you just listen to these first 2 minutes of what we say, it's vital to the future of this profession. We protect freedom of speech. We believe that you should never censor, shadow ban, or traffic throttle the truth, and we'd never do that to you. We also believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. They're not the same things, but if you want to know more about that, reach out to Dr. Karissa. I'm sure she can give you some guidance. And if it's not Dr. Karissa, you can find somebody in your city or state that's going to be able to give you guidance. Hopefully it's a chiropractor on those topics. We also believe in protecting the sacred trust. That's BJ Palmer's last words. If you don't know what that is, you're going to go to our show notes at this episode and find the sacred trust tab there and find out what the sacred trust is. It's BJ Palmer's last words. When you do that, you're going to learn more about chiropractic than you previously did, I guarantee you. And then we support subluxation-based chiropractic because they're removing the languaging from these schools, which we don't agree with over here at Chiro Hustle. So if you like this show, you think it's important, share this show with a student, share this show with the student group, and get this to more people that need to understand that chiropractic is a science, philosophy, and art. And like Dr. Karissa said at the beginning of our chat today, is there's no two chiropractors that are the same. So chiropractors are artists, and you should find somebody that you resonate with. And then last, I know I shouldn't have to say all this stuff, but I do. But we believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence. We were just discussing, like, when you don't know something, you disregard it or think it might be scary. But we do believe that when somebody gets adjusted, man or woman, the physical, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. And with that, this is episode 638 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Dr. Karissa Lacy, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, James. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so let's just start from square one. Little Karissa, when did you start chiropractic and how did you decide you're going to become a doctor?
Awesome. It's quite a fun story. So I was a student athlete in Port Orange, which is the same town as Palmer's School in Florida. So I was adjusted there as a young high school athlete, and I never really got the bug. I didn't really understand what chiropractic was. So I went to college in South Florida and started playing rugby, and fell in love with the sport. And we were not very good. We were a D2 club team, actually, like really bad, actually. And they have the Sweet 16, which is the top 16 teams in the nation. And we did not make it. We wrote a letter. We're like, please let us come. So we drive up to North Carolina, and I see this bus pull up. It says Life University, and these girls walk out with their matching shirts and their bright green. And I was like, whoa, like, this team knows what's going on. Like, what do they do? And my captain was like, oh, you have to become a chiropractor to like go play for them. And I put it in the back of my mind, could care less about it, went along with my day. my mom started seeing a chiropractor, and she was like, Karissa, you have to meet this lady. Like, she's changing my health. It's very exciting. Brings me along and tells her that I want to be a chiropractor. And I was like, no, I don't. The only school I would ever want to go to is this Life University school because of the rugby program. Sure enough, that is where she went to school, right? So she was able to connect me through there. But the reason why I got hooked on chiropractic is because I started under care. I started seeing her, and my biggest complaint was acne. I had a lot of hormonal issues, and that's not something that normally brings someone to the chiropractor, but that's why I went. And she started asking my body questions, and it blew my mind. I was like, the body knows, the body is this smart. And it changed my paradigm of what our bodies were capable of and what that innate intelligence looks like inside. And so from then on, I was hooked. I couldn't stop learning about chiropractic and the wonders of our body. And then the more I realized, the more I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. My parents, they never raised me on medication. They always raised me alternatively, not with the chiropractic title, but looking back, it was very much the chiropractic lifestyle. So that's my story. That's how I got to where I started, did my undergrad, did my chiropractic college, all at one place, playing rugby the entire time.
So that's really, really, really impressive story. And it parallels my story. Many people that watch our show, they know that I grew up in Davenport, Iowa, where the profession started. And I got into the chiropractic college because I hurt my shoulder playing high school football. And I went in, my mom took me at 16 years old to get x-rays on my shoulder. And they asked her if they could take x-rays of my spine too, to see if there's any subluxations. So back then they used that terminology. Absolutely. And my mom said, yeah. So they did. And, you know, I always had a profound impact on my sports performance also when I was getting adjusted regularly.
Yeah, for sure.
Pretty cool, right? So you're six months into practice.
Yes.
What's working? What's not working?
Cool. So I graduated in 2022. I associated for a year, and I've now moved back to my hometown. So it's very exciting. Tomorrow actually marks my 6 months being open. And one of the biggest things that has helped me is getting back into my community. All of my old friends are here. My family is here. We have really big roots deep into the church around here. So getting out, doing all of the things. And really the biggest thing that has helped is just my internal referrals. Happy customers turn into more happy customers, and letting people know that I'm here, something new. We are actually not too far from Port Orange, so there's a chiropractor on every corner, and they don't really get as far south as me. So even though we're close, we're a fresh pair of eyes all the way down on the East Coast, and so it's very exciting. One thing that I've been doing that's a little bit unique is my office. I have an extra room that I turned into a studio. So because of my athletic background, I have a very big heart for movement and the importance of that. And so I do a whole bunch of stuff in there. I have different classes. We do yoga on Friday mornings, different things, but I have a party a month, and it's very congruent with like my fun spirit, which I enjoy. So that's one thing that I've been doing to get people into the door that aren't necessarily looking for a chiropractor right off of the bat, or don't know what chiropractic is. They'll come to my party for my goal setting class. We did karaoke one month, anything like that, to bring people in. And then once we get to start talking about chiropractic, how it relates to whatever we're learning about, then those eventually convert into new patients. So that's my plan.
Well, I love the fact of what you're talking about when it comes to community. Absolutely. And I think that you have to have unique approaches to how you connect with community. And right now, people are tired of being isolated. They're tired of being told that they're not invited and that you have to be by yourself. And I think that the more that you start inviting people in, the more that people can actually connect. And I think that that's the real beautiful thing about what you're doing is when you invite people in, they feel a part of a community. When they start actually like building like a home where you practice, then they'll start telling everyone about you. So it all starts with like, say, you don't have to be so mechanical about how you do it, but you have to invite people in. And sometimes that's a different approach. You know, sometimes people go out there and do community style events where they schedule people in. There's just so many different ways, like I've talked to 1,300 chiropractors, and everybody has a different way of how their ideal way to build their practice. So I think it's really cool. But what you said about the movement, it brought me back to like a baseline understanding is you went to life, and life is movement and movement is life. So it's very much a mirror statement. But I think when you think about your practice specifically, as life is movement, and when you're subluxated, you're not moving. And when you get people to just start to like take themselves and to start intuitively moving their body, you can see now where their posture deviations are. You can start to see where we can make improvements. But it's like kind of like a baseline analysis. Like, how many more dances do you have in you?
Yeah, and what I found is interesting is people are so separate from their body. They'll push through, they'll ignore their pain, they'll shut that pain up with different medications, ice, what have you. And that's something that I really like to bring back is, what are you feeling? How does your body feel right now? Then later go communicate that to me when we're in the adjusting room, right? So then we can work together on your health. This is not I'm here to heal you, right? This is, we're working together to make sure that nervous system is flowing so innate heals, right? So we're listening, tuning in, being able to connect to our body in a society where we're constantly being separated from that. So yeah, we use movement a lot.
Well, I want to go back to this big word, innate.
Yes.
Somebody's never heard of chiropractic before, and they definitely don't know what innate intelligence is. How do you explain that to somebody that has no idea?
Great. So innate, we talk about in chiropractic universal intelligence, which is the structure of everything and how the entire universe is formed. The innate is the spark of that brings life, almost the blueprint to life. Our body is smart without us even thinking about it. Our heart pumps 3 tons of blood every single day, speeding up when we need to, slowing down when we need to. Our stomach digests food without us even thinking about it. The part of our body that's working without us consciously thinking about it, that is innate, that divine spark. And so that's what chiropractors get to work with every day. And the beautiful thing, the way that communicates through the body is through the nervous system. And so as much as people think that chiropractors are here to move bones, we're really here to make sure that nervous system is flowing, thus innate is flowing.
So what one thing on top of that is, which I really thought that was like a very good explanation of innate. And I'm a bit
Good question.
I'm a bit quicker to explaining that to people as I tell them, if you cut yourself, do you have to tell it to heal, or does it heal on its own? I say that's innate intelligence. And you come from life where Sid Williams started that school, and he would I don't know if this is before your time, before my time too, but I was told that he held these assemblies and he would drop these keys to the ground, and he would always say, chiropractic's like gravity, it works whether you believe it or not. And that leads me into my next question with you is, what happens when you run into somebody that says, I don't believe in chiropractic? How do you manage that person?
Yeah, again, it doesn't matter. I do believe that belief has a huge role, right? The placebo effect in anything. If you believe something, it's going to work better for you. But chiropractic doesn't necessarily need that. I know that once the nervous system is functioning, once it's cleared, it's going to function better. It's going to function more properly. So I have them give me a chance. If I can convince them to give me a chance, then the body speaks for itself.
Yeah. And then I use the idea to people that are in this position with me, and I say, just go see an animal get adjusted. Like, they can't talk, or watch a video of a baby get adjusted. Like, the baby can't talk, but you can see the adaptation. You can see how an animal or a baby adapts, and their nervous system changes its patterns. And you can see how like the body changes. So as educated adults, we're always looking for somebody to like prove it to us.
Mm-hmm.
But for something that can't talk, you can see the physiology shift, which I think is really cool.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited to talk to somebody that's been in practice for 6 months. What are you doing for marketing that works to help you besides internal referrals?
So you'd think that my age range that I'm in, I would be super involved in the social medias, and I'm not. It's actually the hardest part for me. I instead really enjoy getting out in the community. So recently we had Edgewater did an Earth Fest. It's right across from the office, and the way that I'm building my practice is trying to be completely congruent with what I enjoy and who I am. So I made homemade tie dye for Earth Day, and it was made out of beet juice and turmeric. And I had all of my patients tie dye this giant tapestry, put my logo on it, went to Earth Fest and let people know that we were there, right? Got a bunch of emails, able to communicate through emails, MailChimp, right? It's a great way of getting people to know that I'm out there. And then I'm still going to be working on the social media. I have someone to help me now, which I'm very excited about. But that has been another way. It's just getting out in the community and letting people know that I'm there, getting their information so then I can contact them, at least get them to a place where I can send them information on what chiropractic is.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue VA, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, the Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from a full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle. All that a nurturing campaign. And I think it is important for people to recruit, support. And I think that it's important for you to find people that are skilled in different ways of marketing and practice building that's different than what you like to do. Because I think that everybody has to test the market that's in their local community to find out what works. You know, when I first started out, I joined the Chamber of Commerce and a young professional networking group and a professional business development group. So I was like in the community, like meeting with like leaders of businesses and telling them what we do and why we do it as a non-chiropractor, but as the guy working at the office that had to go to this because, you know, that's part of my role. Mm-hmm. But I think that I didn't like all that. I mean, the one thing I did like about it is the office would buy my breakfast when I'd go to these events. So, yeah. You know, but I think that when you come down to it, like you should nurture what works and nurture the people and build the relationships with them, because those are the type of people that will be with you for forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mentioned, when you say a nurturing relationship, that is 100% accurate to what I'm doing. So, or what my goal is. Like I said, I have these parties that I have. One person was excited about the exercise class, comes to the exercise class, nurtures that relationship even more. They mentioned something that I get to help with, right? I explain how chiropractic can help with that. They are now one of my best patients. So just trusting that process, building those relationships, even if it takes a little bit more time, I'm here for it, especially since this is my hometown community. Born and raised here. So I know these people. I have a heart for these people, and that's really rewarding and very exciting for me.
So building the practice, nurturing the community, 6 months in, I know I go back to this a lot, but it's really awesome that you have the courage within your first year to say, yeah, I'll go do this interview.
I know. I was ready to be rejected, but here, let me tell you a little thing that I've been doing. So I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I was listening to this one. It was on the Huberman Lab big Huberman fan. And it was talking about doing things that are scary and hard and difficult, and how it enhances our brain muscle and the connectivity between the two. And so since then, I committed at the beginning of the year to do something either hard, scary, or new every single day. And the things that I have accomplished since then have been insane. So this was one of those things that I would not have done 6 months ago. But since I'm pushing myself out there, the worst you could say was no. So here we are.
I like that. Hard, scary, and new.
Yes.
It's a good way for people to reformat what's possible. And I do believe that we're all limitless, that we can do whatever we want to if we put enough intention into it. And are you familiar with human design?
Tell me a little bit more, maybe.
So they find out like when you're born, where you're born, at the time, like location, and then they put it through this program and they kind of identify what your characteristics are.
Interesting. Okay.
So anyways,
is it based off of stars at all? Is it?
I'm not like an expert in this, but a friend of mine did my human design, and I was just curious as to like what it all meant. Like, there's so much I don't know, but the only thing I really like anchored to was they told me as a manifesting generator.
Ooh.
And I think that what I just said, we can create whatever we want. We can become whoever we want, but we have to have enough belief into the big why of why we do something. Like I anchor the show at the beginning. Why do we do what we do? Because I honestly believe, like I've been talking to a lot of chiros lately about like following your North Star. And if you follow the North Star, you don't get lost. And I believe that chiropractic, we need to reconfigure the chiropractor's North Star to where they all know that they're going one direction, to where chiropractic doesn't get lost. And I just think that it's so easy. Like all these things are so easy, but we make them too complicated. And one of my best friends would always tell me, I would tell him, look in obvious places. Like, don't overthink it. Just go and look for something where you think it should be. Like if I say, hey, go find the light switch, you're going to go right by the door and you're going to reach around and you're going to find the light switch in a dark room. So I think it's the same way with chiropractic. Like, what's the easiest way to get people integrated into chiropractic? Well, there's so many ways, and you should do it your way. And I think that that's the cool thing about what you just said. Find something hard, scary, or new, but also don't lose course of your North Star of where you're going. And that's serving your local community, deep roots, like you said. Earlier on, you're like, you wanted to give thanks and glory to God. Like knowing where your roots are, like that's also really important. So I think that that's a good transition segment for us here as to who would you like to thank for helping you get to where you are today?
Awesome. Well, first of all, I really want to thank my family. They've brought me back home, and I get to live with my parents and my grandma and just focus purely on that fire inside of me. Recently, I went to a Jordan Peterson lecture, and he spoke about that calling, that fire inside of you. And the first step towards doing something great is listening to that and walking towards it. And so having a support group of people that are allowing me to do that is beyond measure. I'm so thankful, especially my two older siblings. I am the youngest of three. I say my much older siblings. I was definitely a surprise. They're 15 and 12 years older than me. So they are completely successful in their own right. And actually my older sister has a business podcast where she helps young entrepreneurs start businesses. So having that as well to be able to lean on has been great. Along with that, listening and in my life, I don't separate innate from the Holy Spirit working inside of me, right? So when I got called after my first year of associating to come back home, I didn't know what it was going to look like. I had no plan. I was just really walking by faith and taking each step of the way. And so I give a lot of thanks to my creator. my God. And being able to now live as an expression of that, helping my community. I still don't necessarily know where I'm going to end. I'm still taking it step by step, but that's life, and that's where it's really exciting, not necessarily knowing where you're going to end up, but working extremely hard every day, following that fire inside you.
I think that's profound. It might be one of the most sincere approaches that anybody's ever shared with us on our show about, um, connection to their family and being with their parents and grandma. And it's very sincere. I think that I get a chance to talk to so many people and to platform so many people's stories. And I just think like hearing this like message of like coming home and being connected and having family around you and being connected with God, like it's so pure. And I'm sure you're serving from a different level of purity when you're back and supported and insulated with all these amazing these feelings and this culture of family.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sure that wasn't the same when you're off at Life, and I'm sure it wasn't the same when you were an associate. So this is a really interesting chapter for you to like come home, like the coming home project.
Yeah, absolutely. And bringing a new spark of something that this community hasn't really heard of, right? A new look at health. And that's even it's just so exciting to empower these folks again to take back their health and realize I have control over it. Kind of like what you said earlier, like what we think and what we say, it's all important, and that dives right back into how we approach our health.
Well, I've been getting a lot of opportunities to speak on bigger stages at state associations and different country assemblies. Like I was just sharing with you, I'm going to Portugal soon. And yeah, it's cool, right? Like to spread this message of chiropractic globally, it's very, very important. But by doing so, like there's a responsibility and keeping the language and the standard of chiropractic North Star project alive. Like it, I have a slide that I created.
Okay.
It says chiropractics. This manipulation's for you. And that's my opener. And I asked the room, how does that make you feel? Does that make you feel awesome to be a chiropractor when somebody calls it chiropractics? And then I say, does it make it feel great when somebody calls what you do a manipulation? Yeah. And then I say, okay, so for the rest of my talk here, the things that I'm going to share with you would probably matter to you because I'm not going to misspeak. And if the word chiropractic matters to you, then we should support it with all of our love and passion. Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to ever be manipulated or manipulate somebody, then we should call it an adjustment, shouldn't we? Mm-hmm. So the words that we use really matter.
Yeah.
And that's just the proof to teach that message globally. Like you said, you get a chance to reintroduce a new paradigm to a lot of people that don't know that health comes from within and the number one doctor in the world is the one inside of them. Mm-hmm. So like it's chiropractic and it's an adjustment. It's not a manipulation. It's not chiropractics. So when we go forward in the next 20 years, it's perfect tee up. Where do you see this profession going, and how do you see chiropractic either devolving or evolving?
So I'm a white pill at heart. I'm always thinking on the positive side of things, and what that looks like is big. Oh man, I know that specifically from the pandemic, people have been starting to question the modern take on medicine and the modern understanding of what health is. Kind of took something really terrible to get us there, but it starts to open up people's minds to question a little bit, and I'm thankful for that. And I don't know, this might be too crazy to say. I've just been thinking about it in my head. And so this is the first time I'm saying it out loud. So here goes, is I see chiropractic being the leading force in an alternative insurance market, right? So insurance right now controls a lot of how we take care of our patients, to the demise sometimes of their patient care. They only get however many adjustments, etc. And so being able to to maybe shift that a little bit, and chiropractors being the leaders of that, to then create a more organic, natural, working with the intelligence that's already inside us. If we function, for example, our body parallels nature. And if we take those parallels and we work that within a system on a grander scale, I see chiropractic being the forefront of a new healthcare system.
Well, I think that that's pretty powerful. And I just tell people all the time that chiropractic is a standalone profession. It never belonged in the medical paradigm because chiropractic is chiropractic is chiropractic. It's not a medical arena profession. It's connecting man or woman the physical to man or woman the spiritual by removing the interference. And that gets us philosophical. The body needs nothing extra in it. It simply needs no interference. There's nothing in the medical world that can prove that except for the power of a chiropractic adjustment. Mm-hmm. So we have to own those truths about this profession. Otherwise, somebody will steal it from us and they'll start calling it wellness. And now you can see wellness in everything from Botox to weight loss to pharmacy. Yeah. They've hijacked what wellness is. And if we don't start owning what chiropractic messaging is, then once again, the insurance industries will hijack it and they'll call it a manipulation and not an adjustment. Mm-hmm. And we have to get back to the fundamentals and learn how to block and tackle before we start making plays. And I think that if we get to the fundamentals, we can create a beautiful future for chiropractic. And I do like your viewpoints of, people that have benefits towards needing care, they should just change it to a chiropractic adjustment rather than a fixation or a mobilization and a manipulation. And then we would be able to take off like speed racers with the truth of chiropractic. But I think the reason it hasn't, and there's those fractions in it, is because of the semantics. I think that the words that we're attributing to the chiropractic adjustment for reimbursement purposes are incongruent. So I really believe that if we want to build full congruency, we have to go back and change the languaging of what the providers provide. And then we everybody across the board calls it a chiropractic adjustment and everyone else can manipulate. Yeah. It's different.
And we are different, right? Like, that's okay. I think we should stand in that and be different. That's how I was raised. I think that it really worked out for me to find this profession.
So 6 years or 6 months in, but as an associate too, so a year and 6 months in, mm-hmm. Is there anything that you've seen that has really like blown your mind as a practitioner, as maybe a miracle that you've seen, or maybe multiple? I know people all the time, they're like, oh, I've seen pregnancies and I've seen, people here again, but what have you seen specifically?
Cool. So real quick, before I answer that question, my first mentor that I had when I was still a student, I asked her, like, what is the one piece of advice you'd give me moving forward in my career? And she said, don't forget the miracles, right? We get so used to seeing them every day that we dismiss them. It's just what we do. And so I love that question, taking the time to remember those miracles. This is my favorite story. So I had a little baby and he had 8 ear infections on both sides. He was 15 months old and he had already had 8 ear infections. So the mom brings him back to the urgent care. They're like, what's going on? Oh, another ear infection, right? So that means they've already been on 8 rounds of antibiotics. They've already done all of the things. And so the nurse at the urgent care was like, have you tried a chiropractor? No. Why would I? So calls our office, comes in, checks Atlas, right? Atlas is out on the right. Gentle adjustment. The next day, they bring baby back in to go to the pediatrician to get that 9th round of antibiotics. And the doctor's like, ear infection's gone. There's no ear infection, right? And they bring the baby back, and it was such a great celebratory story, right? No more ear infection, no more pain, but also no more antibiotics that potentially hurts the gut, etc. And they've been under care since then. And And what I love about that story is it's the same principle and the same thing that happens when you are 93 years old, but we see the reaction to it so much faster because babies are healing and growing at such a rate that change is just quicker. And so that's one of the reasons why I love to share that story.
Well, it sparks up a lot of things. And it was the original conversation we were having about innate intelligence. And if you go and check out how a baby responds to chiropractic care, or a horse or a dog, like they can't talk. They can't tell you, hey, bro, my ear's feeling better. Thanks. Or I'm sleeping better and all the fluid leaked out of my ear. Thanks. No, they just represent a different presentation of physiology. Yeah. And that's why chiropractic works. And that's why it's a miracle. It shouldn't be. Everybody should know that you go and see. My buddy holds, he's done 111 mission trips down in the Caribbean. Wow. Chiro Missions International, Peter Morgan. And he goes to Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And they open a birthing center down in Haiti because there's so many orphans down there. And there's so many, kids, people are having babies and not having support. So they opened up the first ever chiropractic orphanage down in Haiti. And they call them the touch healers. Oh. So when you think about like this profession on a fundamental level, our next movie, by the way, we're creating a third documentary. We've done 2. And the third one will be called Adjust the World. And it's going to be based on no exchange of money, because that's chiropractic. You don't have to speak the same language. And I just think that there's a lot that goes into this profession, but we start to dilute it when we think about reimbursements. But we don't, what we don't realize is that the power of one adjustment where you don't speak the same language or take money for or have insurance attached to it, you can still change someone's life. And that's the power of adjusting the world. If we just knew that chiropractic had the ability to do these things and everybody just accepted it instead of challenged it, now every mom wouldn't go through 8 rounds of antibiotics for ear infections when they should just say, you know what? Let's try that thing that the chiropractor does where they fix the first bone in the neck. Like, that makes a lot of sense. So instead of an outside perspective coming in with things, we're releasing the effect from the inside. And I just read a study a couple of weeks ago that antibiotics are being linked to depression. Like, they're finding that when you ruin the gut flora, it makes people depressed. Go figure. So can you imagine 8 rounds of antibiotics by freaking 15 months? Like, the developmental processes that you're going to have to like retrain this person to actually like have a good state of mind because their gut's been rocked. So I think it's a tremendous miracle story. And I think that everybody should get their babies checked by a chiropractor on day 1 and learn how to have a birth that's non-medicalized, and find a midwife and find a doula or whatever they call them, and do things more holistic rather than thinking it's a medical procedure to have your kid, because I think so many times people get mixed up into this medical arena that they think the hospital is the only place to have a baby. But I can tell you just from my experience of going into hospital and seeing people, like if I was around all those beeps and all those like things, I'd be nuts. So I can't even imagine what it does to the subconscious of a mom and what it does to the subconscious of a baby to have that much hectic environment and all the beeps. Like, I'm just telling you, like, that's nowhere to like find comfort and calmness. Yeah. It puts people in peak state. And even a guy that is just there visiting, like, I couldn't even imagine being laid up in one of those places. I'd be like, get me out of here. I'd wheel myself out. They'd be like, why is that patient outside? I can't handle the beeps.
Oh, that's too funny.
Well, Dr. Karissa, today was a great episode with you. I appreciate you being episode 638.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Is there anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to leave us with?
Not that I can think of. Go get adjusted.
And not manipulated.
Yeah.
Well, I'll close out then, and thank you for being our guest. And you're amazing to get onto the show. And thanks for having the courage.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like scoring a try.
Woo! Oh, the language. Great.
So I'm just going to close out like I always do, telling everybody you're just one story away. Keep hustling. We'll see you on the next episode. Dr. Karissa, bye for now.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.